Hi everyone, I'm Corey Philly, and I'm the Executive Director of the Vancouver Fringe, and we're here for all things Fringey. I keep on forgetting to say that name. I think this is now number 6, 7 at the Fringe Festival. I have lost track of time, but we are just slightly over the halfway mark, so congratulations to us. We have all survived the first half of the festival. I'd like to acknowledge that we are in the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, and it's an honor to live, work, podcast, and Fringe on these territories. What am I going to bring up today? I think what I'd like to say is, obviously there's so many shows going on. VancouverFringe.com still going on. And also I'd like to say a huge thank you to all our sponsors and our donors who make it possible for us to continue forward. Honestly, individual donors especially have shown up in the last couple of years when we just didn't know what was happening, and they have really been a huge support for the organization, and they continue to be people who shout out for the organization and support it in multiple ways, not just financially. So we thank every single donor who's made contributions now, in the past, and hopefully in the future. We really like that. I'd like to also give a shout out again to Leap Creative Studios. We're here today in Leap Creative Studios, who are doing our podcast, as well as this is where we're doing all our live streaming. And we're here with Burkeville Productions, Ken and Marvin. Woohoo! Shout out, man. They also brought me, I think, a scone. I didn't actually look in the bag because that is how I roll. People need to bring me food. Today we're here with two lovely humans who have agreed to speak with me. They've had a little bit of a problem with what's gone on with the Fringe, but we're going to talk up what is going to happen next in their show. So the show is Echoes from Faraway Cities. And hello, guests. Would you mind introducing yourselves?
Sure.
Amir?
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much, Corey, for having me here in this lovely interview. My name is Amir Hosseini, and I'm a director of the show Echoes from Faraway Cities. And I was super glad that our show was part of the Fringe Festival.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. Thanks for having me here. It's lovely and an honor. My name is Soha Sanaju. I'm producer / actor at Echoes from Faraway Cities.
That's great. So we're going to get in definitely to talk about it. They unfortunately, Echoes in Faraway Cities had a cast member who was ill, and so they had to pull out of the Fringe, sadly, after being very excited and being at the Fringe for all. And people actually, very funnily, somebody passed me on the street, and people have been trying to, they talked to me about whatever show, and they said, what was the show with the saran wrap? It was the thing that had happened at sort of our little showcase at the beginning, and I was like, yeah, what was the show from there? And then, of course, because that was kind of the last time anybody saw you, that it was your show. So just so you know, people did remember. So that's great. Yeah. Now, do you mind if I just delve into a little bit of your backgrounds? And I always like to say, what city were you born in, and how did you arrive here in this world?
Go ahead.
Cool. Yeah. I was born in small city in Iran, Mashhad. It's kind of southeast of Iran. And my background in theater, I have a bachelor and master degree in directing theater back Iran, and I was involved in theater and documentary making before I immigrated to Canada 2009.
Okay.
After I arrived here, I follow my dream as being involved in art, and step by step, I found myself here as an artist and follow my dreams as a writer and director. And at this time, I'm an artistic director at Blackout Art Society, which is a non-profit organization to support immigrant and refugee artists.
How long has Blackout Arts happened?
It started from 2017.
Oh, okay.
Almost 5 years. I and Soha was the two key persons that pushed the whole of effort to this organization shape and work. And at this time, we have two other full-time employee that they help us
That's really good for 5 years,
exactly.
I have to say. It's very good for a nonprofit for 5 years.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. And it's based here in Vancouver. Yes.
North Vancouver and Vancouver. We started Vancouver, and we also still have an office in Vancouver, but maybe I wanted to say about the festival. Because the festival that we created for the refugee and immigrant artists from last year, we rented an office in North Vancouver because Presentation House is our co-partner in this festival, and we need their logistic stuff to support us. So we gradually moved to North Vancouver, but we still have our office in Vancouver. So something between two cities.
So Kim Seledy has been really a champion of yours.
Yeah, exactly.
He's done a lot for a lot of artists.
That's true.
Especially on the North Shore, but also internationally as well.
Without his help, it was almost impossible for us and our organization to find its path in Canada.
Yes, for sure.
That's true.
Just for everybody, Kim Seledy is artistic director at Presentation House in North Van, and he's been there, I think, around 10 years or so now. And he's always been a person that's championed new work and made amazing co-productions with people and different, very, very different voices a lot of the times. He has a lot of work that he's done internationally with young people's theater or theater for young audiences. He's also done things with, I think the last thing I saw over there was it Electric Company? Electric Companies. Yes. And that was a very cool installation theater piece that they did last year. So it's always really nice to hear his voice because he really is a person that does a lot of work.
Yeah, that's true.
So how about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I was born in a city called Yazd in Iran. It's at the center, a desert city, and it's very beautiful. And so I was a lawyer back in Iran. Yes, I studied law. I always wanted to get into theater, but my parents always so theater, arts, what's gonna get out of it? So let's just do something else and keep it as a hobby. And then, so I studied law and I became a lawyer. And then I moved to Canada in 2008 and I studied accounting here. I was supposed to be an accountant, and then I was like, you know what? I want to do theater.
Cool.
And then, I just forgot everything, and then I got into theater, and I met Amir, and we worked together, and we founded our art society, and I've been working since 2012 with Persian theater, and then I met him, and then we did a couple of Persian theaters for 8 years, and then we moved to produce theater in English because we wanted to attract more audiences and build this bridge, between cultures. It's really important, and to be able to tell our stories and, connect with other people. So we've been very blessed to meet Kim Seledy, and he helped us very much. We were artists in residence for 2 years with them, and we produced a lot of good shows and made a lot of good connections, and we're trying to pass that on to other immigrant and refugee artists who are struggling here because of language and the resources that they're not aware of. So we're trying to help them and make this community bigger and more healthier and more productive.
I think it can seem a lot of times when you go, not just, there's whole many things about what you just said is like newly immigrated like here, and then trying to figure out a system that seems like there's a whole bunch of gatekeepers too. It's so important to find humans that kind of open those doors, right, in different ways, like just even knowledge about what's going on. It's so important, like that kind of mentorship within communities, within age groups, right, so that there's nothing that is knowledge is power in those kinds of things. So to be able to make informed decisions, you have to kind of know all about that stuff, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, what attracted you about the Fringe? You've been doing work over in the North Shore or in other places. So what was it about the Fringe this year that you decided to do? I know you put your hat in a ring and we do this thing called the lottery and everything, but what was it that sort of you thought this was a great opportunity? I'm assuming this may be your first time you've done it. Is that correct?
True.
Okay,
yeah.
So do you want to go? Okay.
Up to you.
So yeah, we thought that Fringe is a very good platform and opportunity for us as a new, as a baby startup company that's trying to, open our wings and make connections. So it would give us a bigger platform to present our culture in English, and and our story is like about domestic violence in this show, and it's like for us it was like, okay, we can connect to more people, and more people can see us and see what we're doing, and then it will give a voice to other immigrant and refugee artists to not be shy or not to be afraid to present their work and just put themselves out there and let other people to see them and and connect. So we thought that's a really good opportunity. Let's do this lottery, and if we win, if we get into the Fringe, it's gonna open a lot of doors. And then we got into and
yes. Yeah, I mean, I know that's the other the sort of the not so great story conversation about this is that unfortunately because of the illness you had to cancel. But you were always intending to then go on to Presentation House and have a couple of shows there. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. Is it just the two? Now, how long is it running at Presentation House? The good thing is it is running at Presentation House. So how long is it running at Presentation House?
This show would be run at. We have 3 shows at Presentation House, October 1st and 2nd. One show, the opening would be October 1st, Saturday, 7:30 p.m. and 2 shows on Sunday, October 2nd.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
So lots of opportunity for people to see it. Yeah. I mean, the good thing is, I mean, it would have been great for you to have like sort of what it almost feels like a preview up to lead up to those shows, I think.
Exactly.
That would be great. But, you're only then having to deal with your show and not every other show because, for the Fringers, how it goes, is that people are all crowded into one space. You get 3 hours to tech. You get into the space. You do your show. You get off in 45 minutes and somebody comes on in 45 minutes. It's a bit of a whirlwind. And so you have to be very prepared for, those sort of, I think you have to be prepared and you might have to make some compromises on what you would normally do for your show. You don't maybe get the same production values or the set or all that stuff. But it's a great jumping off point, but it is a different kettle of fish.
That's true. Exactly. Yeah.
So tell me, without giving away too much, because I know people like to sort of, how would you describe Echoes from Faraway Cities? Like, what was the motivation to do it? One, and then how would you describe the show?
Echoes. I performed a pilot version of Echoes as part of my thesis for my master degree in Iran back 2008, I think. And it was a 20-minute version, and it was a kind of documentary theater. At that time, I had an interview with a victim of acid attack, and I also the topic of my thesis was documentary theater. So I tried to find a kind of tie between that story, the acid attack victim, and theater, and it went very well. After that, I performed that show in 2011 in Persian, the 20-minute version, here in Vancouver at Scotiabank Dance Center. But I always had that story in my mind, and I was thinking, this story still have to develop. There is still something I would like to add in this story. Last year, I had an opportunity to work on the script and extend the story and the theme of the story from the acid attack victim to the domestic violence. I realized that domestic violence is not something just in the extreme situation like acid attack. Everybody in some extent experience kind of violence or domestic violence. And I review my personal experience and the stories that I heard from people around me, and I extend this story to the woman. She's a documentary maker, and she, after involving in this documentary, she feels echoes of this situation in her life. That's the whole story of Echoes from Faraway Cities. And the version extends to 85 minutes. We performed the show at Annex last May for 5 nights, I think, and all sold out. And everybody loved the show.
Oh, wow.
And we've decided, okay, we have to still present this show in other places. The first option was Fringe. I was volunteer with Fringe from 2010. I love Fringe. Yeah, Fringe was the first place that I did volunteer as a volunteer when I came to Canada. So 4 times I was volunteer at Fringe. So we applied with Fringe. Hopefully we got the opportunity and we had the chance to get into the Fringe. And we were super excited to share the story and the show with broader audience and network. And after that, Presentation House Theatre, we already had a contract with Presentation House Theatre for Echoes. And hopefully we pitch this show in April with BC Touring Conference. Hopefully we get another opportunity for touring this show around BC. I think that's the whole story behind and current situation for the Echoes.
Now, it's interesting thing what you said to me about, obviously, as you said, you did your the beginning of this was from your own language of Persian, and now putting it into English. How I imagine there also might even be some Persian in the story, obviously because of the company, and obviously. So my question is, how was that for you? It's such a I think. I have taken very bad French for many years, and I never really got anywhere to be able to think in a language other than English. You know what I mean? I can get my way through a city, so I can do that in French, but that's about it. So that's a really difficult task. So how did you approach that?
There's 2 kind of approach. First, during the writing process, and second is a thinking process. For thinking process, I always think in Persian. The whole verbal, the whole dialogue, everything happens Persian because the characters are Persian. When it comes to writing, I started to write in English, but in some part I couldn't. When it got kind of deeper feeling, I couldn't write in English, and I had to write in Persian, and then step ahead, fix something and translate it.
Yeah,
that's the whole process of writing for me. So part of the show, maybe more than half of the show, I wrote in English, and the other part I wrote in Persian. It was almost impossible for me to because I couldn't feel my feeling in English. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard, right? Like to, somebody was telling me there, I was talking to Dolores Drake, and she's doing The Distance Between Newfoundland and Toronto. And she's from Newfoundland. And she was saying, and I was saying to her, like, people from Newfoundland had a very specific accent. And I said, how did you, come from one coast to the other coast? Vancouver has a very flat accent, I mean, and we believe we don't have an accent, right? But I know we do. Very flat accent and so how did you come and do it? She says, every time I start getting emotional, I sound like I'm from Newfoundland again, right? And I think that's where that's where the mind-body connection is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are some cultural stuff that you just, when Amir was writing and we were reading it, and when we told part of the writing to some, people who were born and raised here, we're like, it doesn't make any sense in English, but it made complete sense in Farsi. But when you translate it, it's like, okay, so we have to, again, he has to change it to, make sense in English English speaking audience hears it. So that's another challenge that he had.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's so many choices one can make, I think, when you're dealing with separate language, like multiple languages on stage. Some people do surtitles, those kinds of things. Did you think about that? Like, how did that, like, it seems to me that it makes total sense that we, as whatever audience member, would hear the language in whatever it is because emotion comes through. Exactly. However, but some people make other kinds of choices.
Yeah, it's totally personal, and it's just my idea. I believe that people overwhelmed with kind of subtitle and text version of everything, and I like that when somebody is inside the venue, in a dark venue, to watch theater, they just would like to focus on what's happening on the set, not what's happening on the screen to follow the surtitle. I would like that audience just follow the emotion, characters, faces, everything on the set. I always avoid doing surtitle. However, it's much easier for me to perform a show in Persian and add a surtitle.
Right.
It puts me in tons of difficult during the process of writing, during the process of rehearsal, actors, everything. But I prefer that don't grab this opportunity from the audience when they are inside the venue. They have, in my point of view, they have to watch everything on the set, not the screen, not the surtitle. So unless there is something on the show that we wanted to transfer from the surtitle, the surtitle is a kind of character inside the show, like other part of the set.
That's a great way of putting it.
In this case, for example, Clean, from the show in college, Chelsea Haber. On that show, surtitle and the text, they had a character, and there was part of the show, and step by step, audience forgot about the surtitle, and I okay with this kind of surtitle. But when it's just a surtitle, no, I prefer to avoid that.
And also, it can become this, ongoing mythology that there's only one, or possibly two languages in Canada, right? There's English and there's French, and that's it, right? And that's just not true. And that, because it's. I hate this word, so I'm sorry, I'm going to use it, but it normalizes the experience for all that there's all kinds of human beings that speak all kinds of different languages, and all of those are on, can be engaged with at very different levels, and same levels, right?
That's true.
I remember going and seeing this show at Push Festival called Prince Hamlet. Did you? It was they were working with deaf and hard of hearing actors, and there was a woman who was playing Horatio in it, and how they managed with the ASL, because she was she spoke only with ASL in her language, was that the other character would just talk back to the person within the conversation, so you knew what the conversation was completely through the entire thing. So there's it was it really was helpful because it was completely integrated and into the story, and as you say, like, you didn't have to look up to see, or there wasn't somebody, it was just part of the scene, or part of the show, right?
It's in my point, I didn't see that show that you mentioned, but since I'm hearing what you're saying, I'm thinking that it's a kind of creative way to bring everything together from what they have. Okay, if we have to deal with this situation because this person, the only kind of communication way is body language, we have to find a way for the whole show. And that's, in my point of view, it's not surtitle or something. It's a creative way to deliver the message.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I guess my other question would be, because this is not a light topic, but a needed topic, like we all, as you say, I think one of those things is where you go, the statistics play out, of course, across, it doesn't matter what your culture or background is or anything like that, it plays out across economics, that, 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted, so there's a lot of our statistics are rife with the whole idea that, of course, this is embedded into, unfortunately, our society at times. So how is a cast dealing with that? Like, it's tough stuff, right? Like, it's hard to be emotionally invested in what you're doing and then leave and go and make dinner for your family, So how have you been managing those kind of, I guess, for lack of a better word, like self-care scenarios in this? And then how does that extend into the audience as well?
So would you like to?
Sure. So as a cast member...
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And as a person who plays the acid attack victim, I personally had a really hard time coping because I've seen this lady that I'm playing back in Iran 5 years ago. And I was very familiar with her story and with her life through Amir and my research. So it was really hard for me to watch her videos and listen to her voice and look at her face. And then after every rehearsal, I was like shaky and, but we have a very good team and we always, support each other, talk to each other. And Amir was really sensitive about this. And he was always like, before and after, are you feeling okay? Do you want to talk? And he's really supportive. And then for the show, we had an active listener present at the venue. So we would announce it before every show that there's an active listener, and if you need some emotional support, she will meet you at the lobby.
That's great.
And yeah, and 2 or 3 times, I guess, people needed to step out of the venue and go see the active listener, because it's like all of us have experienced violence. It's in different, levels. I was in an abusive relationship for once, and I completely understand how, emotionally and physically you are damaged and scarred. And for me, it was like acid. It's like deforming your face from the outside. It's visible and people can see it, but there are a lot of scars emotionally, psychologically inside you, causing you to, be scarred from the inside, but nobody can see it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yes, there's such variations in those situations about how people have dealt with it, about their story, all those things. And I guess that's part of this conversation is like letting the ability to have the conversation about different kinds of stories and stories, right?
And it's all right that you are being abused emotionally and physically, but like a lot of other people's, and you can talk about it. There are people out there to help you. And we had actually support from this North Shore Women's Center group that, so women can go there, talk to them, and there are emotional supports available for them. And it's like awareness that empowering women to just talk about it.
It is very interesting. When we selected for the Fringe, one of my friends told me, come on, Fringe, Fringe is a place people would like to feel relaxed. Lots of clown show, musical show, funny shows. What the relation between your show and Fringe? And I told to this guy, okay, I know my show is sad, but this is something that people have to see. Everybody, in my point of view, needs to be aware of this kind of situation. Maybe experience or maybe not, but sometimes we do some kind of violent action without knowing that. So awareness is the most important part of this show. We didn't focus on acid. It's just part of the story. The main part of the story is abusive relationship that almost everybody in some extent experienced that. And that's the thing that I would like that people see, people talk about that, people knowing about that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, it's very funny that your friend said it. I do understand in a way why that's true, because there's lots of one-person shows, and lots of those one-person shows are funny, and people are doing a particular thing. But actually, the very first show that I ever did at the Fringe, so long ago, was Oedipus Rex, and I was a Greek chorus member. So there's a whole bunch of different kinds of things, and I think people are also. I'm a person who loves like getting into things. I like the feeling of feeling my humanity in a different way, of actually feeling reflected. And I think lots of times it's so hard, as you say, things aren't visible. People don't feel visible. They don't feel reflected in things. And the only way to do that, I think art is one of those really great ways in which it can be both hard and beautiful. You see yourself, you see an experience out there, which is also beautiful as a human being, to realize you're not alone, right?
That's
and and how to make that, to reach out, or to find ways in which you can not feel so isolated, or not feel that your story is like a singular story, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
Yeah.
Really interesting. I'm gonna have one last question, because I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch with you, but since you did documentary theater, and I've seen a little bit of documentary theater, obviously you got permission of the human being that we're talking about to do that. What kind of, I don't know, it's not really values, but what do you put in front of you when you're dealing with people whose real life stories you're talking about, and they're so generous to share it with you? So how do you it's such a weird, sorry, it's the wrong way. It's such a tightrope to walk, I think, between telling somebody's stories and not exploding people, right? I mean, not that I'm saying this is what's happening. I'm just asking, like, how do you manage that in your head, or
honestly, for me, when I think about this story, I personally like kind of story that those stories have tie with the life. I enjoy watching kind of sci-fi movie, but when it comes to me, I prefer something from the real life, maybe because of my background, or the way that I grew up. But I like everything has kind of tie with the real life. So on the other hand, documentary is the real life, and everything is clear. There is no setup, hopefully.
Yeah.
There is no setup, and there is no actor, there is no design for the story. And tying this together, theater, when the place, there's a stage, everybody knows, okay, this is the play, this is the set, this is not life, this is theater, and finding a tie between these two, for me, it's really interesting. Bringing life to the theater and let audience feel something close to the life. I don't like to ruin the show for you, but for the annex version, we couldn't do that for Fringe version, but for annex version, we put a camera in the bathroom behind the scene, and some part of the show happens real inside the bathroom, and people watching.
We had that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. For the Fringe, we recorded that, and we decided to play back the recorded part. We wanted to mix everything together: live, documentary, theater, and let audience forget about theater.
Yeah.
I know that some people say audience have to know that they are inside the theater. This is the kind of a method for theater. Audience have to think about theater. They have not forget that they are inside the theater. But I'm a kind of person that I like when audience inside the theater and everything is dark. Let audience forget about everything outside. Let they think this is the world.
Yeah.
And after that, they have some time to think what happened. That's my personal taste when it comes to theater.
And then can I add something else?
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, about human beings you're dealing with. For example, the a lady who was the victim of acid attack, Masume. We talked to her, and when me and Amir, we both went back to Iran, and we just gave her some proceeds of the show. Yeah, because she needed an eye surgery because maybe she can have one of her eyesight back just a little bit. Yeah, after 10 years. And the way he approaches, this lady and, because we've been interviewing other immigrant and refugees for our next project, it's like we try to approach it in a way very respectful, and it's not very intrusive, and then let them to talk about what they want. We're not pushing them to, tell us, okay, talk about your life and, all the hardships and everything you've been through. We open the floor for them to feel relaxed and, comfortable to share their stories. And then respectfully, a lot of them are become confidential, because after that they say, we don't want you to use this part in your story. And then we always try to do that and be in a very respectful area with these people, not to, disrespect them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That totally makes sense. I too, I've mined, not just my family stories, but other stories around me. And it's always interesting for me, like, to go, lots of it is just a inspiration to then whatever the vision is, but it was always mindful in my brain, and I sometimes get mixed up too in my brain about what is actually sort of owned by that person and feels appropriate to use, and what is also something that I'm placing upon this, and it needs to be very clear that it's fictional and all those. It's I mean, artists walk through the world, we see things, you do a certain thing, it inspires you, and we're always I don't mean taking, but we're always being inspired and being, to do work by the world in which we function, right? And sometimes that takes us very close, and also in your work takes you very close to a human being and their own personal story and what that means. And I love the whole conversation about consent and also boundaries around what is appropriate and what the person wants to share and wants to show up. So that really makes sense. It's really cool. Okay, so I want you to shout out for your show. Tell people where they can go to find out more, first of all, about your theater company.
Okay. They easily can find in our website, blackouttheater.com, theater
ER,
yes,
yes.
version. And they can find us in Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Other than that, Stand Festival is the other thing that we deliver each year, November 2nd to 9th. This is the festival to support immigrant and refugee voices.
Cool.
Happened last year for the first time, and this year for the second time. If they just search Stand Festival, they can find us and more information about the festival.
And where does the festival take place?
This year in Presentation House Theater, North Vancouver, but hopefully from next year we bring the festival to the Vancouver as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And if people are trying to find tickets for your show now, where do they go?
They can find the link to our website and the Presentation House website. It is PHT.
Just Google Presentation
It's
House.
Presentation House. You'll find it. This is
or through our website.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And again, it's October 1st and 2nd.
1st and 2nd.
And what are the times of your shows?
For the October 1st would be 7:30 p.m.
Okay.
And for October 2nd, we have two shows. Since it's Sunday, we have one show at 2 p.m. and one show at 7:30 p.m.
Great.
Yeah.
And the other question I have is, like, if people go to your website and they're wanting to assist, like help with refugees, is there a place they could donate and find out more information about that?
Yeah, they can do that.
Okay.
There is an option of donation on the website, and there are other information for the program that we designed for refugee and immigrant artists at this point for theater, but hopefully in the future we extend this program to other disciplines such as dance and music. But at this time there are programs to support emerging immigrant artists.
Cool, that's really great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else I haven't asked that you would like to tell me?
There is one thing that I'm not sure, but I've decided to share it with you as executive director at Fringe, maybe for the next year. But since at this time we don't have a show at Fringe, maybe we can offer this even for this year if it's not too late. We would like to add a prize for Fringe for immigrant shows. I know at this time there are 4 or 5 shows, the theme related to the immigrant. We would like to, since we are opt out from the Fringe, maybe even this year, if it is possible and it's not too late, we would like, when I say we, I mean Blackout Art Society, to describe a prize for one of the shows that jury or audience select. We are not thinking about the detail of this prize, but it would be a combination of cash and rehearsal space and something like that.
Cool.
If it is not too late.
Well, you know what is interesting is actually one of the other shows that had to pull out, which is the Frontliners, which is the Playwrights Theater Center show. We should really talk about this, because maybe what we could do is just extend a deadline a little bit later, have people, send out, their application in, and people who may have been in the Fringe, and then we could announce it in November and help out in terms of, sort of promoting the festival and everything else, because the show is happening, I think, the 7th to the 13th. So we're happy to actually always have people want to do that, and then maybe we could just find a way in which that could really work this year, and then we could really embed it in the festival next year. That would be terrific.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank
you
so
much.
That's so generous. That's so generous. I always like that. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. Again, we're at Leap Creative Studios with Amir and Soha. Thank you so much for coming and talking about the show.
Having us.
Yeah, it was lovely. Blackout Theater, .com. And please go see more shows, for God's sakes. It's Wednesday. VancouverFringe.com. There's so many shows that are happening. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.